The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber slid open with a soft hiss. Ambassador Kang Wu stepped inside, his black diplomatic uniform crisp and perfect. Behind him walked his small team of advisors, their faces showing the strain of months of negotiations. The chamber was enormous, with curved walls that stretched up into darkness. Seats arranged in rising circles held representatives from 43 different alien species. Kang Wu had been preparing for this moment for 3 years. Earth's first contact with aliens had changed everything. When the tall, gray-skinned Vorthak had landed their ships in major cities around the world, humanity had felt a mixture of fear and wonder. The aliens spoke of a great council that governed the galaxy, maintaining peace between hundreds of worlds. They offered Earth a chance to join this community. The process had been long and difficult. Earth had to prove it was civilized, peaceful, and ready to take its place among the stars. Humanity had worked hard to show their best qualities. They had ended most conflicts, shared their technology openly, and demonstrated their commitment to peace. Now, after years of waiting, the final judgment had come. Captain Lee Hanna watched from the observation deck above the main floor. She wore the blue uniform of Earth's Space Defense Force, though it was mostly ceremonial. Humanity had only a few ships capable of interstellar travel, all gifts or trades from alien contacts. She had studied every species in the Council, memorizing their strengths and weaknesses out of professional habit. The Vorthak Prime Minister stood first. He was nearly 3 meters tall, with long arms and a face that showed no emotion. His voice echoed through the chamber as translation devices converted his words into human language. "We have reviewed Earth's application for membership in the Galactic Council," he began. "We have studied human history, observed human behavior, and tested human character. The Council has reached a unanimous decision." Kang Wu straightened his shoulders. He had given everything to this mission. He had left his family on Earth, learned 6 alien languages, and negotiated through countless cultural barriers. In his heart, he believed humanity deserved a place among the stars. "The human species demonstrates intelligence and technological potential," the Prime Minister continued. "However, their history reveals patterns that concern this council. Humans are aggressive by nature. They wage war frequently. They consume resources without restraint. They cannot even maintain peace among their own species." Lee Hanna felt her jaw tighten. She knew human history was violent, but every species had fought wars. The difference was that humans had been honest about their past instead of hiding it. The crystalline form of an ethereal collective speaker began to glow with soft blue light. When it spoke, its voice sounded like music mixed with static. "The collective consciousness has observed human thought patterns. Humans think in terms of conflict, competition, and dominance. They would disrupt the harmony we have maintained for centuries." Other representatives began to speak. The insect-like hive queen clicked disapproval through her translator. The energy beings from the Nexus cluster pulsed with negative emotions. One by one, they listed humanity's failings. "Too violent, too unpredictable, too dangerous," Kang Wu tried to respond. "Honored representatives, humanity has grown beyond its violent past. We offer unique perspectives and abilities. Our creativity and determination could benefit the entire galaxy." The Prime Minister raised a long arm for silence. "The decision is final. Earth's application for council membership is rejected. Furthermore, this council imposes the following restrictions on human activity. No human vessels may travel beyond the Sol system without explicit permission. Trade with human worlds is limited to basic necessities. No advanced technology may be shared with human civilization." The words hit the chamber like a physical blow. Lee Hanna gripped the railing of the observation deck, her knuckles white with tension. Around the chamber, alien representatives nodded approval or showed their species equivalent of satisfaction. A few seemed uncomfortable with the harsh restrictions, but none spoke against the decision. Kang Wu stood in stunned silence for a long moment. Then he straightened and spoke with dignity despite his defeat. "The people of Earth will be disappointed but not surprised. We hoped for friendship and found fear instead. We will respect your decision and withdraw our application." He turned and walked toward the exit, his team following in silence. As they passed through the chamber, Lee Hanna heard whispers from the alien galleries. Words like primitive, warlike, and dangerous floated through the translation systems. The contempt in their voices was clear in any language. Later, in the small human quarters aboard Proxima Station, Kang Wu sat at his desk writing his final report. His hand shook slightly as he typed. Behind him, Li Hana stared out the window at the massive alien fleet that protected the station. Ships from dozens of worlds moved in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with advanced technology that humans could only dream of possessing. "They made a mistake," she said quietly. Kang Wu looked up from his report. "Perhaps, but it's their mistake to make. The council has spoken." "No," Li Hana replied, her voice growing stronger. "They looked at our history and saw only violence. They didn't see adaptation. They didn't see survival. They didn't see that every war we fought made us stronger, smarter, better at working together when it mattered." She turned from the window, her eyes bright with anger and determination. "They want to keep us locked in one system like animals in a cage. They think they can control us with their restrictions and their superior technology." Kang Wu saved his report and stood up. "What are you suggesting, Captain?" "I'm not suggesting anything," Li Hana said. "I'm observing. They've shown us that peaceful negotiation won't work. They've demonstrated that they see us as a threat to be contained rather than allies to be welcomed. Most importantly, they've given us time to prepare." The next day, the human delegation departed Proxima Station aboard their small transport ship. As Earth grew larger in the view screen, Kang Wu thought about the difficult conversation he would have with President Kim Tae. The dream of joining the galactic community was dead, but something else was being born in its place. Li Hana spent the journey reviewing everything she had observed about alien technology and tactics. In her personal notes, she wrote detailed assessments of each species' military capabilities, their fleet compositions, and their apparent strategic doctrines. She had a feeling this information would be very important in the years to come. When they arrived on Earth, President Kim Tae was waiting at the spaceport. His face was grim as he listened to Kang Wu's report. The rejection was bad enough, but the restrictions were an insult that cut deep. That evening, the president addressed the world. His speech was broadcast to every human settlement, from the cities of Earth to the mining colonies of Mars and the research stations beyond Pluto. Today, the Galactic Council rejected humanity's application for membership, he began. They have also imposed restrictions on our freedom to explore and grow. They see us as a threat to be contained rather than a species to be welcomed. He paused, letting the weight of the words sink in. But humanity has faced rejection before. We have overcome greater challenges than this. If the galaxy will not accept us as we are, then we will show them what we can become. In the depths of the Pacific Fleet Command Center, Admiral Park Sung was already at work. Charts and technical specifications covered every surface of his office. He had been planning for this possibility since the day first contact was made. Now it was time to begin humanity's greatest project. The age of isolation was ending. The age of preparation had begun. 3 years had passed since the Council's rejection. Earth looked different now. Where once there had been separate nations arguing over borders and resources, there was now unity born from a shared enemy. The Global Defense Initiative had replaced the old United Nations, and every human settlement from Earth to the outer planets worked toward a single goal. Admiral Park Sung stood in the command center, buried 2 kilometers beneath the Pacific Ocean. Banks of computers and holographic displays surrounded him, showing the progress of humanity's most ambitious project. At 62 years old, he was one of Earth's most experienced military leaders. His gray hair and weathered face showed the strain of coordinating the largest construction effort in human history. "Status report," he called to his chief engineer. Yunari looked up from her workstation. She was young for such an important position, barely 35, but her mind worked with the precision of the quantum computers she helped design. Her black hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, and her clothes showed the oil stains of someone who spent more time in workshops than offices. "The asteroid belt facilities are ahead of schedule," she reported. "We've completed the basic framework for 12 shipyards. The Jupiter moon bases are providing raw materials faster than we can process them. Most importantly, the new drive systems are ready for testing." Park Sung nodded with satisfaction. Hidden construction sites throughout the solar system were building humanity's secret fleet. Massive hollowed-out asteroids served as shipyards, their interiors fitted with the most advanced manufacturing equipment human science could produce. The work proceeded in absolute secrecy, hidden from the surveillance satellites that the Council maintained around Earth. Dr. Choi Min entered the command center carrying a data tablet. He was the lead scientist on the quantum drive project, a thin man in his 50s whose appearance hid one of the most brilliant minds in human history. His discovery had changed everything. The prototype tests exceeded all expectations, he announced. Our quantum tunneling drive is not only faster than Council technology, it's completely undetectable. Their sensors are designed to track conventional faster-than-light engines. They won't see us coming until we're already there. The breakthrough had come from studying the wreckage of a Council patrol ship that had suffered an accident near Mars. Officially, the humans had helped with rescue efforts and salvage. Unofficially, every piece of alien technology had been secretly copied and reverse-engineered. What they discovered had shocked them. Council technology was advanced but predictable. The aliens had grown comfortable with their superiority and had stopped innovating. Their ships were powerful but slow to adapt. Their weapons were effective but followed rigid patterns. Most importantly, their entire military doctrine was based on the assumption that they would always have technological advantages over their enemies. Nam Ki walked over from the intelligence section. As head of the Unified Intelligence Network, he coordinated Earth's growing network of informants and allies throughout the galaxy. He was a small, quiet man who looked like an accountant but thought like a spy master. The Outer Rim species are showing increased interest in our proposals, he reported. The Corvan Republic is ready to provide rare minerals in exchange for manufacturing technology. The Zephyr colonies want protection from Council taxation fleets. The Nomad clans are willing to share navigation data for the FAR systems. Park Sung smiled grimly. The Council had made the same mistake that many powerful empires had made throughout history. They had assumed that their authority was accepted by everyone under their rule. They had not realized that many species resented Council domination and were looking for alternatives. How many ships can we count on from our allies? Park Sung asked. The Corvans can provide about 50 light cruisers, Nam Ki replied. The Zephyr forces are mostly defensive, but they control strategic jump points. The Nomads have excellent intelligence networks and can provide logistics support throughout the Outer Rim. It was not enough for a direct confrontation with the Council's main fleets, but it would provide crucial support when the time came for action. More importantly, it meant that humanity would not be fighting alone. Yunari activated a holographic display that showed the solar system. Red dots marked the locations of human construction sites. Green indicators showed completed ships and facilities. The display was impressive, but Park Sung knew they needed much more. Show me the new ship designs, he ordered. The hologram shifted to display the sleek form of humanity's first dreadnought. Unlike the bulky Council warships, human vessels were built for speed and maneuverability. They mounted kinetic weapons that could punch through energy shields, and their adaptive artificial intelligence systems could learn and respond to enemy tactics in real time. Captain Lee, Hana's voice came through the communication system from her position aboard the prototype vessel in the asteroid belt. Soul's Pride is ready for full combat trials. All systems are operating within normal parameters. The crew is eager to test our capabilities against real opposition. Park Sung had promoted Lee Hana to Fleet Command based on her tactical abilities and her understanding of alien military doctrine. She had spent the last 3 years studying every piece of intelligence about Council forces, developing strategies that could overcome their numerical and technological advantages. Begin Phase 2 of the construction program, Park Sung ordered. I want 50 more ships like Soul's Pride within the next 18 months. Priority goes to fast attack vessels and carrier platforms. The room buzzed with activity as his staff began coordinating the expanded construction effort. Park Sung walked over to the strategic display that showed the known positions of Council fleets throughout the galaxy. For 3 years, humanity had been learning, building, and preparing. Soon it would be time to act. Dr. Choi Min approached with another report. The artificial intelligence systems are showing remarkable adaptation rates. Our ship computers can modify their tactics based on combat experience in ways that Council systems cannot match. We've essentially given our fleet the ability to evolve during battle. This was another crucial advantage. Council forces relied on predetermined tactical algorithms and rigid command structures. Human ships would be able to think, adapt, and improvise in ways that would confuse and overwhelm traditional alien strategies. Yoon Ari joined the conversation. The manufacturing capacity is expanding exponentially. Each completed shipyard can help build 2 more. We're approaching the point where our production rate will exceed Council construction capabilities. Park Sung considered this information. The Council controlled hundreds of worlds and had been building ships for centuries, but they had grown complacent and inefficient. Their shipyards were old and their methods were outdated. Humanity's focused effort and new techniques were proving surprisingly effective. "What about personnel?" he asked. "Every human settlement is providing volunteers." Lee Hana's voice came through the speakers. "We have experienced space crews from the merchant fleet, military veterans from Earth's conflicts, and young people who grew up dreaming of the stars. Morale is incredibly high. This was perhaps humanity's greatest advantage. Every human in the solar system understood what was at stake. They had all felt the sting of the Council's rejection and the humiliation of the imposed restrictions. They were fighting for their species' right to exist as equals in the galaxy." Namki activated another display, showing intelligence reports from throughout Council space. "Our informants indicate increasing complacency among Council forces. They conduct routine patrols and maintain their fleets, but they haven't fought a real war in over 2 centuries. Their crews are well trained in theory but have no combat experience." Park Sung nodded thoughtfully. The Council's long period of peace and dominance had made them soft. They had become police officers rather than warriors, administrators rather than soldiers. When the fighting began, this inexperience would be a critical weakness. "Timeline?" he asked. Yunari checked her calculations. "At current production rates, we'll have a fleet of 500 combat vessels within 2 years. Dr. Choi's drive systems will give us strategic mobility that the Council can't match. Namkai's intelligence network will provide tactical advantages. We'll be ready." Park Sung looked around the command center at the people who had dedicated their lives to this project. Engineers, scientists, intelligence officers, and military personnel, all working together toward a goal that would have seemed impossible just a few years ago. "Remember," he told them, "we're not just building ships. We're building the future of humanity. The Council thinks they can keep us trapped in one system forever. They're about to learn that human beings don't accept cages." Above them, hidden in the darkness of space, the first ships of Earth's secret Armada continued their construction. Soon, very soon, the galaxy would discover that humanity's exile had not broken their spirit. Instead, it had forged them into something stronger and more dangerous than any Council member had imagined possible. The warning sirens echoed through the asteroid belt construction facility as sensor operators tracked the approaching ships. Admiral Park Sung stood in the command center, watching the tactical display show 6 Council vessels moving toward their hidden shipyards near Jupiter. After 5 years of secret preparation, their greatest fear had become reality. "How did they find us?" Yun-Ari asked, her voice tense with worry. Namki checked his intelligence reports. "Unknown. Our security protocols have been perfect. Either we have a leak or they got lucky with a routine patrol." The Council fleet was led by Admiral Zurketh, a veteran Vorthak commander known for his arrogance and his contempt for younger species. His flagship was the Dominant Will, a massive dreadnought armed with plasma cannons and protected by layered energy shields. The other 5 ships were heavy cruisers, each one larger than anything humanity had built. Commander Oh-jin stood on the bridge of the destroyer Busan Lightning, one of 12 human ships currently in the area. At 38 years old, he had trained for this moment since joining the Space Defense Force. His ship was smaller than the Council vessels, but it carried weapons and technology that the aliens had never encountered. "All ships, this is Admiral Park Sung," the communication system crackled. "You are to engage the enemy fleet with extreme prejudice. This is what we have been preparing for. Show them what humanity can do." The Council fleet approached with typical alien confidence. Admiral Zurketh had dealt with troublesome species before, and he expected this confrontation to end quickly. His sensors showed the human ships as small, primitive vessels that posed no real threat to his modern warships. "Human vessels," his voice boomed across all communication channels. "You are in violation of Galactic Council restrictions. Surrender immediately or face the consequences." Commander Oh-jin smiled grimly as he opened a response channel. "Council fleet, this is Commander Oh-jin of the Terran Defense Force. You entered human space without permission. Leave now or face the consequences." The alien admiral's response was predictable. "Terran Defense Force, you are not authorized to have military vessels beyond your system. Prepare to be destroyed." The battle began with the Council ships firing their plasma weapons in a traditional formation attack. Bright energy beams lanced through space toward the human fleet. But the human ships were not where the aliens expected them to be. Ojin had activated his ship's quantum drive system, allowing Busan Lightning to jump instantly to a new position. The alien weapons passed harmlessly through empty space while the human destroyer appeared behind the Council formation. Before the aliens could react, Ojin fired his kinetic cannons. The solid tungsten projectiles moved at a significant fraction of light speed, accelerated by magnetic fields stronger than anything the Council had ever developed. The first volley punched through the energy shields of a Vorthak cruiser like they were made of paper. The alien ship's hull ruptured in a dozen places, atmosphere and debris bleeding into space. Admiral Zurketh watched in shock as his most advanced shields failed to stop primitive projectile weapons. All ships adjust shield frequency to repel kinetic attacks, he ordered. But the human weapons were already adapting. Ojin's artificial intelligence systems analyzed the shield modifications and adjusted the projectile characteristics in real time. The second volley penetrated the alien defenses, just as easily as the first. Captain Li Hana commanded the engagement from her flagship. Soul's Pride, her tactical display, showed all 12 human ships moving in a coordinated dance around the confused Council fleet. The aliens were trying to fight a traditional battle with traditional methods, but nothing about this engagement was traditional. Execute swarm protocol, she ordered. The human ships began moving in rapid, seemingly random patterns around the Council vessels. Each ship would appear, fire, and disappear before the aliens could respond. The quantum drive systems allowed for instantaneous repositioning that made conventional targeting impossible. One Council cruiser tried to escape by jumping to faster-than-light speed, but the human ships anticipated this move. 3 destroyers appeared at the jump point and disabled the alien vessel with targeted strikes against its drive systems. The aliens found themselves trapped in a battle they could not understand and could not win. Admiral Zurketh grew increasingly desperate as his fleet suffered catastrophic damage. His own flagship had lost 2 weapon systems and was leaking atmosphere from multiple hull breaches. The human ships seemed to be everywhere at once, striking from impossible angles with weapons that should not have been able to penetrate Council defenses. Request immediate reinforcements, he transmitted to Council headquarters. Human fleet capabilities far exceed intelligence estimates. Repeat, human capabilities far exceed estimates. The response came back quickly. No reinforcements available. You have 6 ships against 12 primitive vessels. Complete your mission. Commander Ojin heard the intercepted transmission and laughed grimly. The Council leadership still did not understand what they were facing. They thought this was a simple police action against rebellious primitives. They could not imagine that humanity had built a fleet capable of challenging their technological superiority. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, 3 Council ships were completely destroyed and the other 3 were disabled and captured. The human fleet suffered only minor damage to 2 vessels, with no casualties among the crews. Captain Han Sol led the boarding party that secured Admiral Zurketh's flagship. The alien admiral was found in his command center, staring at his tactical displays in disbelief. His arrogance had been replaced by fear and confusion. "How?" was all he asked when Han Sol entered the bridge. "We learned from you," Han Sol replied. "We studied your tactics, your technology, your strategies. We found your weaknesses and we adapted. You made the mistake of thinking we would stay primitive forever." The prisoners were taken to a secure facility in the asteroid belt, where Namki's intelligence specialists began careful interrogations. What they learned exceeded their most optimistic projections. The Council military was even more complacent and unprepared than they had hoped. They haven't fought a real war in over 2 centuries. Nam Kai reported to Admiral Park Sung. Their crews are trained for police actions against unarmed civilians, not combat against equal opponents. Their tactics are rigid, and their technology is outdated. The captured ships provided a treasure trove of intelligence about Council fleet deployments, communication codes, and strategic plans. Most importantly, they revealed that the Council leadership was completely unaware of humanity's true capabilities. Dr. Choi Min analyzed the alien weapon systems and found them to be exactly what he had expected based on their previous research. "They've been using the same basic designs for decades," he reported. "Our adaptive systems will be able to counter anything they can deploy against us." President Kim Tae called an emergency session of the Global Defense Council after receiving reports of the battle. The time for secrecy was over. Humanity could no longer hide its military buildup, and the Council would soon realize the extent of the threat they faced. "The war has begun," he announced to the assembled leaders. "We did not choose this fight, but we will finish it. The Council rejected us because they saw us as violent and aggressive. Perhaps it is time to show them they were right." Admiral Park Sung began implementing Operation Starfall, the systematic conquest of Council territory. The plan called for rapid strikes against lightly defended systems on the galactic rim, building momentum while avoiding the main Council fleets until humanity's advantages could be fully exploited. Lee Hanna studied star charts of potential targets. The Council controlled over 1,000 star systems, but many of them were poorly defended. Administrative centers, mining colonies, and trade hubs relied on the assumption that no hostile force could challenge Council authority. That assumption was about to be tested. "Where do we strike first?" Park Sung asked. Lee Hanna pointed to a system called Kepler 442. "Major trade hub, light defensive forces, strategic value for controlling shipping routes. If we can take it quickly and hold it, we'll send a message to the entire galaxy that the Council is not invincible." The orders went out to fleet commanders throughout the solar system. Humanity's secret armada began moving toward its first conquest. The ships that had been hidden in asteroid belts and behind planetary shields emerged into open space, their hulls gleaming with new armor and advanced weapons. On Earth, cities celebrated as news of the victory spread. Humanity had struck the first blow against their oppressors and won decisively. The species that had been rejected and restricted was about to show the galaxy what human determination could accomplish. In the depths of space, Admiral Zurketh sat in his prison cell and wondered how everything had gone so wrong. His people had controlled the galaxy for centuries. They had been the dominant military force for longer than most species had existed. Now they faced an enemy that fought unlike anything they had ever encountered. The humans were coming, and the galaxy would never be the same. 18 months after the first battle, the war had spread across half the galaxy. Fleet Admiral Lee Hanna stood on the bridge of her massive flagship New Earth, watching the tactical display show human forces advancing on multiple fronts. What had begun as a desperate fight for survival had become something far greater. The Council chambers on Proxima Station buzzed with panic as representatives from dozens of species demanded answers. Prime Minister Vashtor, the Vorthak leader, faced angry questions about the military situation. His people had dominated galactic politics for centuries, but now their fleets were retreating across multiple sectors. "How many systems have we lost?" asked the ethereal collective speaker, its crystalline form flickering with agitation. Vashator consulted his datapad with obvious reluctance. 47 systems are under human control. Another 23 are under attack. Our fleet losses exceed 60% of original strength. The chamber erupted in shocked voices speaking dozens of languages. The insect-like hive queen clicked her mandibles in distress. The energy beings from the Nexus cluster pulsed with alarm. Never in their history had the Council faced a military disaster of this magnitude. Meanwhile, in the Kepler system, Commander Seo Jun prepared for the largest battle of his career. The brilliant tactician had developed what human forces called the Swarm Protocol, coordinated attacks by hundreds of small, fast ships that overwhelmed larger vessels through superior numbers and tactics. "All squadrons report ready," his communications officer announced. "We have 800 combat vessels in position." Seo Jun nodded grimly. The Council had finally assembled a massive fleet to stop the human advance. Over 2,000 alien ships waited in formation near the system's outer planets, the largest concentration of military power the galaxy had seen in centuries. The upcoming battle would determine the future of the war. The Council fleet was commanded by Admiral Kethvar, one of their most experienced leaders. He had studied the human tactics and believed he understood their weaknesses. His ships were arranged in tight defensive formations designed to provide overlapping fields of fire and mutual support. Human forces detected at maximum sensor range, his tactical officer reported. Estimated strength 800 vessels, mostly light units. Kethvar smiled with confidence. His 2,000 ships outgunned the humans by a significant margin. Each of his dreadnoughts was worth 10 human destroyers in firepower. This would be the battle that restored Council supremacy and ended the human rebellion. But Lihanna had no intention of fighting a conventional battle. From her command ship, she coordinated an attack unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Her 800 ships did not advance in formation toward the enemy fleet. Instead, they scattered across the entire star system in what appeared to be random patterns. "Execute Swarm Protocol Omega," she ordered. The human ships began their attack from dozens of different vectors simultaneously. Groups of 20 or 30 vessels would appear near isolated council formations, deliver devastating attacks, and disappear before the aliens could respond effectively. The quantum drive systems allowed for instantaneous repositioning that made traditional defensive tactics useless. Admiral Kethvar watched his carefully planned formations crumble under the unconventional assault. Human ships seemed to materialize from nowhere, strike his vessels with precision, and vanish before his weapons could lock onto them. His superior firepower meant nothing if he could not bring it to bear on the enemy. "All units maintain formation discipline," he ordered desperately. "Do not pursue individual targets. Focus on defensive coordination." But the human attacks were perfectly coordinated despite their apparent randomness. Seojun's tactical computers tracked every council ship and identified optimal strike patterns. When 3 human squadrons hit a council battleship from different angles simultaneously, their combined firepower punched through shields and armor that could have resisted a much larger conventional attack. The battle raged across the entire system for 6 hours. Council ships found themselves isolated and overwhelmed as human forces used their mobility advantage to create local superiority wherever they chose to fight. Traditional fleet formations designed for battles between organized fleets proved useless against an enemy that refused to follow conventional rules. On the diplomatic front, Earth's new foreign minister Lim Na was achieving victories almost as important as the military ones. In secret negotiations throughout the galaxy, she had convinced 12 minor species to join the human alliance. The Council's previous arrogance toward these primitive civilizations now worked against them as old grievances fueled new rebellions. The Corvin Republic officially declared independence from Council authority and requested human protection. The Zephyr colonies closed their jump points to Council shipping and opened them to human merchants. Most significantly, the nomad clans began providing intelligence about Council fleet movements to human commanders. "The political situation is shifting in our favor," Lim Na reported to President Kim Tae during a secure communication. "Species that have been oppressed by the Council for centuries see us as liberators rather than conquerors." This was a crucial development. Humanity could not win a war of pure attrition against the Council's superior numbers, but they could win if enough allied species joined their cause and if the Council's authority began to collapse from within. The turning point of the Battle of Kepler came when Commander Ryu Dan led a desperate assault against the Council's command ship. His squadron of 30 destroyers appeared directly in front of Admiral Kethvar's dreadnought and concentrated their fire on the bridge section. The massive alien ship's shields flared and overloaded under the sustained bombardment. Kinetic projectiles punched through the hull and destroyed critical command systems. When the dreadnought's main reactor went critical, the explosion could be seen from the other side of the system. With their commander dead and their flagship destroyed, the Council fleet began to retreat. But human forces had positioned blocking squadrons at all the major jump points. What had been a retreat became a rout as hundreds of Council ships were destroyed trying to escape. "Total victory," Seojun reported to Lihanna. "Council losses, 1,400 ships destroyed or captured. Our losses, 37 vessels, minimal casualties." The news of the victory spread across the galaxy within hours. For the first time in millennia, a major Council fleet had been completely defeated. Species throughout the galaxy realized that the seemingly invincible Council military could be beaten. Panic began to spread through Council space as refugee ships fled from human-controlled systems. The Council's civilian populations had lived in peace and security for centuries, never imagining that their military superiority could be challenged. Now they faced the possibility that their entire civilization might be conquered by the species they had rejected and despised. President Kim Tae addressed the human population from his office in New Geneva. "Today marks a turning point in our struggle for freedom. The Council that rejected us, that sought to confine us to a single star system, has learned that human determination cannot be contained. Behind the scenes, Namkai's intelligence network was working overtime to exploit the Council's growing desperation. Intercepted communications showed increasing discord. Among the alien leadership as different species began to blame each other for the military disasters. The Vorthak are losing political control, he reported to Admiral Park Sung. The Ethereal Collective is questioning their military strategy. The Hive Queen is demanding explanations for the fleet losses. Their unity is cracking. This political fragmentation was almost as valuable as military victories. The Council had maintained power through a combination of technological superiority and political unity. With both of those advantages failing, their entire governmental structure was becoming unstable. Dr. Choi Min continued to analyze captured Council technology and found it increasingly outdated compared to human innovations. Their weapon systems are still using designs from decades ago, he reported. Our adaptive AI and quantum drive technology are generations ahead of anything they can field. The technological gap that had once favored the Council was now reversed. Human ships were faster, more maneuverable, and better coordinated than their alien opponents. More importantly, human technology continued to improve rapidly while Council development had stagnated. In the Outer Rim territories, human forces began liberating systems that had been under Council control for centuries. Local populations often welcomed the humans as liberators, especially species that had been treated as second-class citizens under the Council's rigid hierarchy. Captain Moon A led liberation forces into the Centauri system, where the local Corvan population had been exploited for their mineral resources. The mining slaves were freed within hours of our arrival, she reported. They're volunteering to join our forces and providing intelligence about Council supply lines. These liberated populations became valuable allies who understood local conditions and could provide support for human operations. The war was becoming not just a military conflict, but a galaxy-wide revolution against Council authority. Fleet Admiral Lee Hanna studied strategic projections from her command center aboard New Earth. The numbers were encouraging but still daunting. Huma, the massive human armada assembled in the darkness between stars, hidden from Council sensors by advanced stealth technology. Fleet Admiral Lee Hanna stood in the command center of her flagship New Earth, watching as 10,000 human warships took their positions. Alongside them moved the fleets of 24 allied species, their crews united by a shared desire to end Council dominance forever. Admiral Park Sung, now 73 years old but still sharp, observed the final preparations from his command ship Incheon's Hammer. His gray hair had turned completely white during the long years of war, and his face showed the lines of someone who had carried the weight of humanity's survival on his shoulders. This would be his final battle, the culmination of everything he had worked toward. All fleet elements report ready for jump to Altair Prime, his communications officer announced. Allied forces are in position. Intelligence confirms the Council has concentrated their remaining fleets around their capital system. The target was the most heavily defended location in the galaxy. Altair Prime, the Council's homeworld, was protected by massive orbital defense platforms that could destroy entire fleets. 3 concentric rings of fortified space stations surrounded the planet, each one armed with weapons powerful enough to crack planets. The Council's surviving ships, nearly 6,000 vessels, waited in defensive formations around their capital. President Kim Tae's image appeared on the communication screens throughout the human fleet. From his office in New Geneva, he spoke to the crews who would decide the fate of galactic civilization. Today we fight not for conquest, but for the right of all species to determine their own destiny. The Council that rejected us, that sought to keep us imprisoned in one star system, will learn that freedom cannot be contained. The attack began with simultaneous jumps by human forces across the entire Altair system. Unlike previous battles where humans had fought with tactical advantages, this assault required overwhelming force and determination. The Council's desperate preparations had turned their capital into the most formidable fortress in galactic history. Commander Baek Soo led the first wave of attackers against the outer defense ring. His squadron of fast attack ships appeared within the defensive perimeter and began coordinated strikes against the massive weapons platforms. The artificial intelligence systems aboard his ships had been programmed with years of combat experience. allowing them to adapt to new defensive patterns within minutes. But the Council's final stand proved surprisingly fierce. Their desperation had bred innovation, and ancient weapon systems long thought obsolete were brought online. Energy weapons that had not been used for centuries lit up space with deadly radiance. Kinetic bombardment systems launched projectiles the size of small moons toward the human formations. Heavy resistance on all fronts, Baeksu reported, as his ship shook under alien bombardment. These defenses are more advanced than our intelligence indicated. They've been preparing for this battle for months. The fighting raged with unprecedented intensity. Human ships used their mobility advantages to avoid the heaviest defensive fire. But the sheer concentration of weapons around Altair Prime made evasion difficult. For every Council platform destroyed, dozens of human vessels were damaged or eliminated. Captain Moon A commanded the Special Operations Forces tasked with the most dangerous mission of the battle. Her teams had trained for years to infiltrate the Council chambers and capture the surviving leadership. As the space battle raged around them, her ships approached the planet's surface under cover of the chaos above. "Atmospheric entry in 30 seconds, her pilot announced. "Defense grid is focused on the fleet engagement. We have a narrow window." The planetary assault was a desperate gamble. If the Council leadership escaped, they could reorganize resistance from hidden bases throughout the galaxy. The war would continue for decades, consuming resources and lives that humanity could not afford to lose. Moon A's forces landed near the Council complex, a massive structure that housed the governmental apparatus of galactic civilization. The building was defended by elite Council guards, but they had been trained to deal with conventional attacks, not the unconventional tactics that human special forces had perfected. The battle for the Council chambers lasted 6 hours. Human soldiers fought through corridors designed for dozens of different alien species, using weapons adapted from captured Council technology. The defenders fought with the desperation of those who knew their entire civilization was at stake. In space, the main battle reached its climax as Admiral Park Sung led the final assault against the inner defense ring. His flagship, accompanied by 50 of humanity's most powerful dreadnoughts, pushed through the concentrated fire of the Council's last defenses. The old admiral stood calmly on his bridge as energy weapons turned space around his ship into a deadly light show. "All ships, concentrate fire on the command platform," he ordered. "If we can eliminate their coordination center, the remaining defenses will be vulnerable to individual attack." The targeted platform was a massive structure the size of a small moon, armed with weapons that could destroy entire fleets. Its shields were powered by reactors that could supply energy to entire star systems. But human weapons had evolved far beyond what the Council had anticipated. The concentrated fire from 50 dreadnoughts overwhelmed the platform's defenses in minutes. Kinetic projectiles moving at significant fractions of light speed punched through shields and armor, like they were made of paper. When the structure's main reactor went critical, the explosion was visible from the other side of the system. Commander Baeksu died leading the crucial assault on the orbital defense grid. His ship was torn apart by concentrated plasma fire, but not before his sacrifice allowed other human forces to break through the Council's inner defenses. He became one of thousands of heroes in humanity's final push toward victory. On the planet's surface, Captain Moon A and her team fought their way into the Council chambers where the surviving alien leadership had gathered. The sight of human soldiers standing in the halls that had once rejected Earth's application sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. The Vorthak Prime Minister, Vashator, was found in the Emergency Command Center, frantically trying to coordinate the defense of his homeworld. When Moon A entered the room with her soldiers, he looked up with the expression of someone who had watched his entire civilization collapse around him. "The Council surrenders," he said quietly. "We acknowledge human victory." The words were transmitted across all Council communication networks. Within minutes, alien fleets throughout the galaxy began laying down their arms. The impossible had happened. Humanity had not just won, but achieved total victory over a galactic civilization that had ruled the stars for millennia. Fleet Admiral Lee Hana received the surrender aboard her flagship as the last Council resistance crumbled around Altair Prime. The young captain who had watched Earth's rejection in the Council chambers had become the Supreme Commander who presided over their defeat. The irony was not lost on her. "All Council forces, this is Fleet Admiral Lee Hana of the Terran Empire," she broadcast on all frequencies. "You are ordered to cease fire immediately and prepare for occupation. Any ships that continue resistance will be destroyed without warning. The response was swift and complete. Across 50 star systems, Council commanders signaled their surrender. The most powerful military force in galactic history had been defeated by the species they had dismissed as primitive and dangerous. Dr. Choi Min analyzed the captured Council technology and found systems that exceeded even his expectations. They had weapons and defenses far beyond what they used in earlier battles, he reported. If they had deployed these systems from the beginning of the war, the outcome might have been different. But the Council's greatest weakness had been their inability to adapt. They had fought the entire war using traditional tactics and strategies that had worked for centuries. When faced with an enemy that refused to follow conventional rules, their military doctrine had proven inadequate. Namki's intelligence teams began processing the massive amount of data captured from Council facilities. Communication records, strategic plans, and technological specifications would provide valuable information for governing the conquered territories. The Council maintained detailed records on every species in the galaxy, he reported. Their files include political analysis, economic data, and military assessments for thousands of civilizations. This information will be crucial for establishing the new government. The victory was complete, but the cost had been enormous. Human casualties numbered in the millions, and dozens of cities on allied worlds had been destroyed in the fighting. The galaxy had been devastated by years of warfare that could have been avoided if the Council had chosen cooperation over domination. President Kim Tae addressed the galaxy from the captured Council chambers on Altair Prime. Behind him stood the representatives of the allied species who had joined humanity's fight for freedom. His words were translated into hundreds of languages and broadcast to every civilized world. Today marks the end of an era, he began. The Council that ruled through fear and superiority has fallen. In its place, we will build something better, a galactic